tape in this household. Please, tape. Hello? We can't have this. This is unacceptable. Yeah. Get in there. Okay. 3-month recap in 30 seconds. I pledged a fraternity, had a really busy second semester, couldn't watch the 2020 Oscars. I watched the speeches, fucking spring break, and then a virus hit, which was cool. I moved in a week and took a break, also because there's not much to talk about. My dad gave me a purposefully shitty haircut, and now I've got the 2 top contenders for Best Picture behind me. So, you know, it's been a good 3 months. In all seriousness, thank you to those of you who stuck with me through this. I kind of just needed a break. I've been taking a little time. I had a really hectic second semester, and it took a pretty big toll on me. So I just needed a little bit to back up and relax. But I'm here now to talk about a very hot topic, the 2021 Oscars. Forewarning, this is probably going to be a video that discusses a lot of topics right now that coronavirus and COVID has impacted on the film industry. Not necessarily just the Oscars, but how film is going to look a lot different, because it already does. Christopher Nolan is releasing fucking movie trailers on Fortnite, which is something I will defend anything that man does. But I don't know how to defend that. But 2021 Oscar-wise, you know, it sucked for me not being able to watch the 2020 Oscars. It was the first Oscars I hadn't watched in years, and I'd really tracked it heavily, and granted, I got, you know, fucking like everything wrong, because Parasite came out of left field and, you know, tanked our expectations for how well it would do. But I was going, alright, you know, at least there will be next year. And boy was I wrong. There is not going to be a 2021 Oscars. I firmly believe the world will not be ready for that. And, you know, now that they finally made a statement about postponing it, they've kind of been the last race to the track. They've kind of been the last horse on the track. Ooh. It's been a bit, huh? You know, the Tonys, and once the Oscars postpone, all of the other award shows will follow suit. But they're going to postpone, not just because you can't fit however many hundreds of people in the Dolby Theater right now without everyone wearing a mask or not wanting to touch the fucking Oscar without Clorox wiping it down, but because there are no movies to award. I was worried about my film viewing and my lack of viewing film at the beginning of the year because of how busy I was. I realized I wasn't seeing anything. I still haven't seen that fucking thing. And I was like, wow, I'm going to be really behind. I'm going to have to spend the next chunk of the year catching up. I saw 7 movies in theaters this year, and that's about how many big releases there were that wound up coming out into theaters. Because you have January through the beginning of March of film releases, and then since then there have been about 4 movies that have come out, if we're not counting Netflix originals, which I'm not counting the platform. I guess if we do, there have been maybe 5 or 6 movies since March. And what's funniest about all of them is they're all fucking terrible. And not one of them could be like a Best Picture contender. You had the Oscars change their rules. And the way that they wrote the rule to me is just, oh, it's doing everything it can to dance around the fact that it's essentially saying, for this year, if you release your film on streaming, you will be eligible. And I think that they believed a lot more studios were going to do that. But a lot of directors and a lot of producers are seeming to hold to their guts, and they don't want to do it. Now, Disney, you know, once Tenet gets pushed back, which it probably will, I won't say for sure yet, but it probably will, you know, Disney will probably start flooding stuff on a Disney Plus, and we'll see what other studios do from there. But most studios are gunning for like a Christmas release, and that's not going to be enough. Unless they want to push the Oscars to like a June or some crazy shit like that and wait for all these other releases. I doubt it, personally. I think that they're going to have to go way back to 1929 and they're going to have to award 2 years worth of film together. And it's going to be crazy and it's going to be really weird, but I think it's also going to make for a really interesting Oscars. And it will sure make for a more interesting Oscars than we get this year, because your Best Leading Actor nominees would be Tom Hardy for Capone, Zac Efron for Scoob, Justin Timberlake for Trolls World Tour, Ben Affleck for The Way Back, and Kumail Nanjiani for The Lovebirds. Now, it would be the easiest Oscar Tom Hardy's ever won, and hoorah, Tom Hardy won an Oscar, but there's just nothing to nominate, and that doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon, which is really crazy and obviously unheard of, but we're in unheard of territory, and so the Oscars are going to have to alter themselves either to plop themselves in the middle of a year where we're going to have this just chunk of movies release around Christmas time is the plan right now. We'll see what actually happens, but most people have taken their films from summer release dates and moved them over towards November and December. A few ballsy guys in October, but that's about it. People are even pushing to 2021, but that's a lot more like blockbuster stuff. That's your Fast and Furious 9. Edgar Wright's movie Last Night in Soho was pushed to 2021, so you can tell who's really gunning for their contention, if it's even to be possible, and you can tell who's gunning to just release and get into a theater somewhere. But on top of that, you have the sound editing change, which I tweeted about, and I kind of came out of the dark for, because, that was miraculous. I'm not saying there's no difference, right? I go to film school. I had an entire unit on sound editing. By the way, if anyone here is watching that's a sound designer, you're God's heroes, because your work is fucking agonizing. It's horrible, and I don't know how you do it, and I don't know how you put up with it, because it's miserable. But there is a difference between sound editing and sound mixing. By technicality, there is a difference. Distinguishing those two, is it entirely necessary? Maybe not. Because having good sound overall should consist of having both, right? We should be awarding a film for having strong sound design and strong sound mixing. They should be working in tandem. And yes, they are different. They are different jobs that are oftentimes done by different people, but that's just the way that it is. And I think that it should have been combined, especially if they're looking to knock down time on their award show, and if they're still not willing to get rid of that fucking original song category that I hate, but whatever. People will always ask me why I hate that award, because there have been some really good songs that have won, like Lose Yourself, Into the West, which, by the way, Academy voters are not, they're not qualified to judge music. And then people will say, well, what about the best original score category? Yeah, but score ultimately enhances the film. It's there to be a piece of the film. More often than not, the songs that win don't have that much to do with the film. Unless it's like fucking La La Land, or I think Moana won, Frozen, those are musicals. Okay, then you have something. And as much as I love Into the West and Lord of the Rings, can you guess where it appears? The credits. It's not a part of the movie. Sometimes it is, but other times it isn't. And more often than not, they award shit, because the Oscars don't know how to award music. And then the 5 nominees are 5 of the 6 original songs that came out that year. And now we have to live with the fact that Breakthrough is an Oscar-nominated movie. What was I talking about? Sound editing. Overall, though, I think it confused viewers, because no viewer understands the difference between sound editing and sound mixing unless you're a film aficionado. But that's not all who watches the Oscars. A lot of people watch the Oscars, and they want to see who wins, and they see sound editing, and they see sound mixing, and they turn to mom, and they go, Mom, what is the difference between these two awards? And the mom goes, stop talking. But, they're usually pretty close to being the exact same nominees. If they're not the exact same, there's one film that's different. And maybe it's because the fucking voters don't understand the difference and they're just nominating the same movies for both because they like the sound design. So I think it's for the best that they've combined those two categories into best sound. But regarding the other rule and the streaming eligibility rule, it just doesn't help because not enough studios are doing it. And then you have shit like this AMC controversy, which is just, it's honest to God, it's baffling to me. I understand where AMC is coming from. I understand that they're frightened. And this is their first response to that fear. Because they don't play Netflix films. They refuse to do so. Which is one thing. Netflix doesn't produce blockbusters. They produce The Irishman. They produce Marriage Story. And if people like us want to see that in theaters, we will figure out a way to see it in theaters and we will make the trek. But that's not going to be a huge money grab for AMC theaters. And a lot of people are taking AMC's side on this. They're going, they're right because films shouldn't go to streaming and whatever. And I agree. 9 times out of 10, I will always rather watch a movie in a theater. Always. I always want to get the experience the filmmaker has designed for me, unless they've designed it for streaming, in which case I will watch it in the environment that they have shot it for and edited it for. But for AMC, a theater chain which is struggling to survive, mind you, they're fighting tooth and nail to stay alive. Any movie theater chain is right now. To block Universal's films, you are nailing the final nail in the coffin yourself. You have to remember that Universal owns properties, 2 of the largest grossing properties right now, Fast and Furious and Jurassic World. Are either of them good? No. Am I defending either of those film franchises? No. But numbers-wise, they do the best. Almost like they hit fucking Marvel numbers, and they're going to continue to do so. And if AMC doesn't have those, that's it. And what's crazy about that is that's arguably like the one nationwide recognized theater chain, right? Not everyone has a Cinemark or a Cineplex. Not everyone has an Imagine. Not everyone has an Alamo Drafthouse. The one theater chain that you can find anywhere is AMC. And if those go, we're fucked. It's streaming from here on out. And that's another thing that this period marks, is this could be what ultimately ends movie theaters and what makes them like what a drive-in is. Once every 5 years, you turn to your friends and you go, it'd be really fun going to one of those movie theaters that they still have, like 20 miles away. That'd be cool. Go see what they got playing there. That's what movie theaters could become. I don't want them to become that. And again, with AMC making this vendetta against Universal, it wasn't like Universal was saying we're never going to release our movies in a theater again. They were just talking about a possibility of VOD releases accompanying theater releases, which is what most studios are doing anyway. It's what Netflix is doing now. Netflix has finally come to terms with releasing their films on streaming, sometimes before they release in theaters, but also releasing them in theaters. A lot of Netflix movies hit theaters this year. All of their Best Picture candidates and Oscar candidates, I was able to see Irishman, Two Popes, and Marriage Story in a theater without a whole lot of difficulty. It would have been a lot easier if I could have walked a block up the fucking road and seen it at an AMC, but I couldn't do that because God forbid, right? So, at the end of the day, there's a lot happening. Right, where people are scared about the end of movie theaters. I'm scared about the end of movie theaters because it's the industry that I'm going into. It's what I'm studying. It's what I'm banking on to make money. Whatever I wind up doing, I wanted to make movies for people to see in a theater, and people will make the phone argument, but, people will always go on their fucking phones during a movie. Clearly, they'll go on their phones in a theater, and they will go on their phones at home. But there is not a whole lot of doubt in saying that movie theaters are the best experience. You can talk about price, you can talk about convenience. I wrote a whole research paper on this for one of my classes, and there's so much to balance, but there are pieces of evidence to suggest that streaming and theater watching are complementary and not necessarily against one another. all that being said, that plays into what is going to happen at the Academy Awards. Very simply, for 2021, I don't think there will be enough film to have an award ceremony. If Tenet holds their fucking ground and Warner Brothers decides to release it there and the world is ready for that, and I don't know if it will be, but if the world is ready for that, we may have a different discussion, because other films and other companies will then hold to their ground and start releasing movies, and we may just have something. People may be able to send screeners to the Academy voters in time, and we may actually have an Oscars. But if Tenet pushes back, then it's going to be interesting to see what happens in 2022 or the middle of 2021. I don't really know. Nobody does. But it's going to be interesting, and it's kind of going to be exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Anyway, that's all I have to say about it. I wish there was more to say about it, but there just kind of isn't yet. In terms of upcoming videos, I have an idea. It's similar to, like, the retrospectives that people are doing. I don't want to do that exactly, just because a lot of channels are doing that, but I will do something of that nature. More on that will come. I'm going to get this video up first. Thank you guys for sticking around. I appreciate your leniency towards my break. I really needed it. I needed to pause and breathe and have a month or two to just kind of do nothing almost. Finish my schoolwork online and just not have any real priorities. I just played video games and watched movies and hung out with my girlfriend, who is long distance, and that was that. So thank you guys for watching. I really, really, really do appreciate it. Stick around. There will be more to come, I promise. Thank you guys, and I'll talk to you all next time.